What do you post on LinkedIn as an entrepreneur running your own business without sounding unprofessional? This is literally the most common question that I get about LinkedIn from business owners who want to start marketing their business on LinkedIn, but they're not really sure like what's appropriate to post on there. Maybe they're more active on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and they look at LinkedIn as this like really corporate platform. It's super professional, and there's kind of like old coworkers, old bosses, that kind of vibe. And it's like, how do I show up on there to market my business as myself, but not kind of come across as really unprofessional to the point that people don't take me seriously? So let's dive in. I'm so excited. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Lena, and I'm known as the LinkedIn baddie. I've been posting on LinkedIn for 4 years, and I first started in February 2020, and I've literally been active on LinkedIn ever since I got on in February 2020 as an entrepreneur when I first quit my job. And from very early on, I started to use LinkedIn in a really different way. So I'm also the founder of the casual side of LinkedIn, where basically we show up as humans and just like sell in a super authentic and fun way while being ourselves. And I find that that actually gets the best results. So let me just break down to you the first thing that I want you to understand. Whenever we talk about like what's professional, you have the right as a human being, and especially as an entrepreneur, to decide what professional means to you, right? I feel like a lot of the time when we leave corporate and we become entrepreneurs, there's a long period of time where we go through kind of like reprogramming, and we were basically disowning the corporate mindset. And the corporate mindset is, you have a boss, you have a company that you're answering to, you have coworkers who have like opinions of you, and you're constantly having to like manage your image because supposedly kind of like your job is on the line, right? And you have to make sure you're going to get hired again. You have to make sure that you're not like being inappropriate compared to whatever the company wants you to do. And so there's all this pressure as an employee. And so the first thing that I want to really remind you, and it took me a long time to really untangle that freaking corporate programming, is when you become an entrepreneur, you are literally your own boss. Like, you are actually not owned by anyone. The only reason you feel like maybe you're not fully free yet, especially in terms of how to post on LinkedIn, is probably just because you're still like programmed in this like corporate mindset of like you have to worry and you have to manage your kind of like reputation in your company, right? But when you're your own boss, you literally, like, no one owns you. You can act however you want. And that is literally the reason that you started your business. So that is like the most important thing for you to understand, is what professional means to you is based on your own opinion. It's not based on a platform, because let me tell you, there are all kinds of people on LinkedIn. It literally blows my mind when business owners are just like, wait, what? Like, there's entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. There's people actually like, what do you mean? Like, you posted that on LinkedIn? Like, there's literally all kinds of people on LinkedIn. Probably not as crazy as TikTok, but if you want to find certain types of people on LinkedIn, you will find them. You want to find the people who are super like sassy, you're going to find them. You want to find the people who swear, you're going to find them. You want to find people who are talking about like being a mom very openly, you're going to find them. Like, literally there is like every type of person. LinkedIn has gotten a lot more casual. And so the next thing that I really want you to understand is, when the pandemic happened on, like, not on LinkedIn, but when the global pandemic happened and everyone worked from home, there was a massive shift that happened on LinkedIn. And the reason I know this is because I got on LinkedIn in February 2020, right at the beginning of COVID. And so just so you know, since then, I've been marketing my businesses on LinkedIn, and this current business that I'm running, my 7th business, I get a lot of my clients from LinkedIn, and I do it all by literally just being my weird, authentic self. And I'm going to talk more about that. But the reason why I'm doing this is because I uncovered a massive gold mine on LinkedIn, which is the power of actually being an authentic human being with a personality. So again, when the pandemic happened and everyone started working from home, there was a massive, massive shift that happened on LinkedIn that I literally watched unfold in front of my own eyes. So I got on LinkedIn to talk about all my different business ideas that I was launching that were consequently failing, unfortunately. So I kind of like made my debut onto LinkedIn talking about my failures very openly and just being like, hey guys, testing this new thing. Not sure if it's going to work out. Here's my early landing page. And people ended up literally loving it. And I grew so quickly. And I started getting like consulting gigs. I started getting podcast invites. Like I started growing my audience like crazy. Like all these people were joining my email list and all these people wanted to have coffee chats with me and everything. And the reason was because people were so tired of the corporate bullshit on LinkedIn. They were tired of like the faceless companies talking about like some kind of stupid award that they won that no one cared about and all this like fake stuff. And also people realize that there's more to their life than their job, right? And so the reason the shift happened so big on LinkedIn was because before the pandemic, people were so like closed off and they were just like, oh my gosh, I have to be like so professional. I can't possibly like not have perfect makeup all the time. But when COVID happened, people were literally just like, I don't care anymore. And people were so desperate for connection that they wanted to feel connected. Like they wanted to really get to know people because we were literally so isolated. And it's crazy. The shift was massive on LinkedIn. And there was like a huge influx of content that was really authentic. It was people literally like sharing like just honest stories about what's going on, sharing their honest opinions about what was actually happening, people cracking jokes, people just like sharing vulnerable things in order to like support each other, right? And so this type of content started to get really, really good engagement on LinkedIn because again, people were just tired of this like overly corporate, buttoned up, very like anal, honestly, just like unnatural things that people were like acting as on LinkedIn. And the pandemic finally like broke that whole freaking like corporate box, if you will. And so that's why the content that performs really well, for example, now on LinkedIn, because of that change, is the human content. It's the content that is showing the actual person behind the content, right? So a lot of people, that's why like people post a lot of selfies on LinkedIn because people actually want to see the person behind the content. They want to see the person behind the LinkedIn profile. That's why people started creating really fun headlines and just like putting emojis in their headlines. They started to just like, post fun videos of them actually seriously, honestly recounting what's going on, right? And so this massive shift, what I really want to tell you, has created a giant opportunity, especially for entrepreneurs, because we don't have a boss. So we actually don't have a limit on what we can talk about, what we can say, and how we can act. We don't have to be super buttoned up. We don't have to adhere to some kind of corporate social media policy. We can actually say what we want, which means that we can really unleash our personality on LinkedIn. And so the big opportunity on LinkedIn, like as of 2020, and I'm gonna let you know, a lot more people are catching on to this. So I've been talking about this for literally years, and like it's catching up because people are catching on to it. But basically, the more that you can show up as your real self, show your personality, crack a joke, share like fun pictures of yourself, like share like kind of strong, like spicy opinions, the more you're actually going to stand out, because there's still a lot of people who are scared to be themselves on LinkedIn, or they actually are being controlled by their employers, which by the way is just absolutely ridiculous to me. And I'm not even gonna get into that, but that shit really pisses me off. But anyway, that's why I don't work at a job anymore. But anyway, so basically, a lot of people will ask me like, what can I post on LinkedIn that's professional? And honestly, my answer to you is stop trying to be so professional. That is not the vibe of an entrepreneur, unless you're some kind of like a corporate intense consultant and you have to be suited up 24/7 and like really freaking serious, talk about numbers all the time. If you're a small business owner like me, maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a service provider, maybe you have a small agency or something, and you're kind of just like a fun person, you're casual, you're serious about your business, but you're not a freaking robot, then I want you to really ask yourself, like, why do I feel like I need to be so professional on LinkedIn? And I'll tell you, one reason is the corporate programming that I told you about, that freaking corporate programming. It's going to take a while for you to unprogram it. But the second reason, and this is so important, is you're probably surrounded by other overly corporate people. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to replenish your network with people who are actually like you, right? So if you're an entrepreneur and you just left corporate, for example, or let's say you've been an entrepreneur, but then now you want to get on LinkedIn and like you've been running your company for a while, but maybe you're marketing on Instagram or something, and now you want to get on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is like your old network, like all your old coworkers, old bosses, old college friends, everything. Of course, when you get on there, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, like everyone's so professional. And it's like, yeah, because you're stuck in a pocket of LinkedIn that represents the old you, right? When I open my LinkedIn feed, I literally don't see overly corporate people because I have unfollowed them. I don't connect with them. I connect with entrepreneurs, and my content generally attracts people who are like me, right? And so I really want to kind of just like take a pause there and just repeat what I just said. My content attracts people like me. In order for me to achieve that effect, I have to actually be myself in my content, right? Which I'll talk about how I do that in a second, but I really just first want to help you understand this concept and this like reprogramming of like, oh, like how do I like post on LinkedIn while being professional? You don't have to be professional, or like at least decide what your definition of professional is. For me, professional is me showing my knowledge, showing my expertise, showing my client results. That's professional to me. And kind of like showcasing who I am, because I do a lot of personal branding work and I help people create authentic content to land clients on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and all these platforms. But like the thing that I always ask myself is, what does my ideal client actually want me to be like, right? My ideal client doesn't want me to be a corporate robot. They don't want me to talk about really boring official topics. They don't want me to use like jargon of my industry. They want me to talk like a human. They want to see me without makeup. They want to see me just like laughing. They want to see a funny selfie of me. They want to see like, you know, a video of me naturally talking about like what I believe in. They want to see like helpful content that's going to help them get results, but is also entertaining, because my dream client are also small business owners who left corporate to do things their way, right? And so the big reframe here is, when you're thinking about like, what should I post on LinkedIn, is focus on what your ideal client actually wants, right? How do they want you to show up? I feel like so much of the time, and this is largely because when we're on LinkedIn, we have our old network, and our old network is influencing how we're appearing. But the crazy thing is our old network of like old coworkers, old bosses, old college friends likely are not our ideal clients. And so the thing that I really want you to not do is get on LinkedIn and worry about how you're going to look like in front of people who are literally never going to pay you, right? I'm just going to look through my notes here a little bit. So the thing that I really want you to also just think about is, how do you buy? Like, how do you buy from people? When you buy from people, you buy from them not just because they can like do the thing that like drive the result that you want, but you actually buy from them because you like them, right? And I feel like sometimes it's like people get on LinkedIn and they're just like, it's like they think they're getting on some kind of like a new planet where there's like all different people, but you do realize that like the people who are on LinkedIn are also on Instagram. They're also on TikTok. Literally, it doesn't matter how freaking old they are. They're on all platforms. And so they also have a fun side. They also have a human side. They don't want or need you to be overly professional just because you're on LinkedIn, right? It's all the same people. And so that's something that really, really helped me understand that the more that I'm actually myself in my content on LinkedIn, the more I can actually attract dream clients who align with me, right? And so let's talk a little bit tangibly about like what you can actually post on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Like that's why like kind of like the question always just like I get really like, I wanted to make this video to really break down my thoughts, because when I get asked that question, to me, it's honestly like, there's actually not much that I wouldn't post on LinkedIn. So granted, like I'm also the LinkedIn baddie and I'm like super rebellious and that's just who I am. I don't really care what other people think. I'm here building my business. That's who I am. If anyone has a problem with it, unless I'm like hurting someone, which I'm not, that's not really my problem, right? So I have a very strong opinion on my business, my content, my authentic self, and it's largely driven also by my life experiences, and literally is actually the reason why I quit corporate, because I didn't want to be controlled. I didn't want to be like told to act a certain way. I didn't want to feel censored. I didn't want to feel like I couldn't like pick who I worked with and all that kind of stuff. And so like literally the reason why I post what I want on LinkedIn is because I refuse to be controlled by this corporate programming, right? That's just kind of my extreme opinion. And so my reason for why I actually don't really have, I have just like a few kind of things that I probably wouldn't like talk about on LinkedIn, which I'm going to go through in a second. But there are very few limitations on what I'll post on LinkedIn, because this is kind of like my way of just like owning what I'm doing, right? Like I started my business to be myself and to do what I want, and I'm going to own that, right? Unless again, I am hurting someone, which I am not with my content, right? So let's say, for example, I posted a trending video on TikTok. I've repurposed trending videos to TikTok. I have repurposed really funny reels from Instagram to LinkedIn. Repurposed trending TikTok videos to LinkedIn, fun IG reels to LinkedIn, talking head videos to LinkedIn, carousels to LinkedIn. Any kind of like humorous posts I've repurposed, any kind of vulnerable storytelling works really well on LinkedIn. There's honestly not much that I wouldn't repurpose. The only things that I personally stay away from, which is kind of like 3 categories on LinkedIn, and this isn't because I'm like scared or something, but it's just because it's just like not my vibe, and like I'm just not willing to like just like burn bridges, let's call it. So the first one is I don't do like a lot of swearing on LinkedIn. I feel like that platform is just like a little more strict and like might like censor you a little bit more. So I would never like write out like the F word or like shit or something like that. Like I'll usually probably just like star it, or I might just say like what the F or something like that. I'm a little more liberal. Like I'll kind of like allude to swear words in my posts. Like sometimes there's the video and sees me swearing a little bit. I don't really care, but I try to stay away from like blatant swear words, just because like LinkedIn might censor you, just because it is a bit more of a professional platform. They have a higher standard for like quality and just kind of like professionalism, right? So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing, totally personal preference, but like I don't post like bikini photos, me in shorts, just like anything that's like very, very revealing. Not that I generally do that on any platform. I'm not that kind of girly. No judgment, just not my style. But even if I have, let's say like I was in Mexico and there was like pictures of me in a bikini, I picked one where you couldn't really like see my body. Like it was just kind of more like the view, because I just like don't really, I don't know, I don't really need people to be like looking at my body on LinkedIn. I just think it's kind of weird. And there's sometimes like, I don't know, there's like a lot of like males on LinkedIn too, and I just don't really want to get like the wrong attention. So I just don't really post anything too like revealing on LinkedIn. But then again, I don't really post anything revealing on any platform. So number 2 is kind of like moot, because I just don't create that category of content. Number 3 is anything that like really would like be aggressive towards like my old employer or something, like, you know, like singling someone out and like telling a story that was just like really hateful or something like that, or just like really like bashing like corporations or employers or like the concept of working a job. Like I just don't really do a lot of this stuff on LinkedIn, just because number 1, there are people in my network who do have a job, and I don't really want to just like insult them for no reason. Which is the same on all platforms. I guess this is just a personal virtue. Like I don't really feel the need to like bash people just because they're doing something that I don't agree with, which is true. I don't agree with having a 9-to-5, sue me. But at least I practice what I preach. But I also just like, I try not to get too intense. Like I might bitch about working in corporate more on TikTok, but I might maybe just like tone it down a bit on LinkedIn and just not be as aggressive, I guess I would describe it. I don't really have an example because it's not like I like complain a lot about corporate, but I'll say stuff like, like something that didn't work for me in corporate is having a job, or like something that didn't work for me in corporate is not being able to choose who I work with, or like, one time I had to work with someone who was really disrespectful because, unfortunately they couldn't change teams and like I had to just deal with it. Like I would tell stories like that. I would just kind of really think about like how important, like how important is it for you to kind of like retain those relationships and like how close they are still. Because for me, it's been a while now since I worked in a job, and so I feel like it's easier for me to talk about stuff like that. But generally though, I generally speak my truth unless I feel like it's really going to I think it's a balance. Like as we do it more, we find where our limits are. But the one thing that I really want to tell you about is when I first got on LinkedIn in February 2020 when I first became an entrepreneur, and I was an entrepreneur for 19 months. I posted freely on LinkedIn. I built up my personal brand. And then at the end of the 19 months, I actually went back to corporate. And so I went back to corporate in a job, and that was the first time that I actually had a personal brand. On LinkedIn. And I was still posting very actively on LinkedIn the whole time I was working in that job, right? And it's so funny because a lot of people are so scared to post on LinkedIn in case of what their coworkers are going to think, or their boss, or like their old boss, or whatever, or like their college friends. And my experience of when I was posting on LinkedIn, I was literally working in a job, was I actually gained more respect inside of the company, and actually started more conversations with more people in the company, because it was almost like they just respected the fact that I actually had an opinion. I was sharing what I thought. I was sharing my knowledge. I'd built up an audience, and I was like posting consistently on top of my job, which was like something that they didn't really know how to create time for, like how to build that habit. The other part of it too is it created a lot of conversations. Like a lot of people just kind of knew me because of LinkedIn, and they felt like they knew me better. And so whenever I would jump in a meeting with someone, they would kind of just like, we would break the ice faster. They kind of had a better feel for who I was, right? We had a conversation started. They're like, oh, like your post was so funny today. I really enjoyed it, like all that kind of stuff. And so I think the thing that I wanted to kind of like talk about is there's this concept of like when we hear silence, we assume that it's judgment. And this is so common on social media, and especially on LinkedIn, because a lot of people will consume your content on LinkedIn and they won't engage with it, because when you engage with content on LinkedIn, people kind of can see that you liked something, they can see that you commented, and a lot of people are paranoid about their employer. And so a lot of people just like, they silently consume content on LinkedIn, right? And something that I noticed that is like so fascinating is a lot of the time people would literally tell me, oh my gosh, like I love your content. I read every single one of your posts, whether it was like a coworker or even just like a high school friend. Like one of my girlfriends, literally, she's like, I read all of your content. And I'm like, girl, we haven't talked in 3 years. She's like, I know, I just like read your content on LinkedIn. But to me, it's like, because I don't see all that engagement, in the early days, I was just like, oh my gosh, like people are judging me. My old boss thinks I'm weird, or like my current boss probably just like thinks this is really weird. My coworkers think I'm awkward, like all this stuff. And we are so quick to assume that when we don't get that feedback, that it's negative, right? It's like, oh, they think it's weird. They think it's stupid. They think I'm silly. They think I'm like unprofessional or something like that. But a lot of the time, it's actually not the case, right? People actually really respect it when you're able to show up and share your opinion. And what I'll tell you is the people who don't respect it and are gonna like give you shit for it are basically people who are not doing anything useful with their life, right? Which could include some old coworkers and some old bosses. And so this is where I really want you to think about when you become an entrepreneur and you decide to go onto LinkedIn as an entrepreneur, you really have to, it's like you can't, I feel like a lot of business owners, they want to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door, where it's like, they're kind of showing up on LinkedIn for their business, but they also want to have a back door. Maybe they're just like, oh, like I want to get hired again one day potentially. I don't want to close the door on that. And a lot of them look at like posting on LinkedIn about their business to be like closing the door on future opportunities, which honestly is like so freaking false, because I'll tell you, I went through that and it didn't close shit for me. In fact, it opened more doors. After I had my personal brand, like literally I was like swimming in job offers. Like I still get like pitched jobs for like product managers in tech, and I just like honestly have not even been in that industry forever, but it's because I have a personal brand, I have a presence, I have an opinion, I actually have a personality, and people respect it when you have a presence where you're sharing your expertise, right? So this whole concept of like, oh, like if I market my business on LinkedIn, like I'm gonna close the door on future job opportunities, like absolutely not, because your LinkedIn is like a timeline. That's why you have the experience section, right? You can say like, I used to work in this job, now I'm running this business. Later, if you don't want to run your business anymore, I freaking hope you do, but like let's say you decide not to and you want to go back to a job, great, now you have the next experience section. Now you just rebrand yourself, right? There's no such thing as closing the door. In fact, you should be talking about your business on LinkedIn, because now you're showing the whole like sequence of events in your career, which is really important for people to understand what the hell you're about and to like want to potentially hire you in the future, right? Which again, this isn't turning into a video of like how to get hired after you quit your business. Sorry, got really thirsty there. But what I want you to really think about is like when you become an entrepreneur, you need to embrace that identity even when it comes to LinkedIn. This is something that I'm so passionate about, because again, it comes back to that corporate programming, because it literally boils my blood when people feel like they have to hide their business on LinkedIn. I just think it's so freaking tragic. It's like we built our businesses and we quit our jobs to like do what we want and not be controlled by like other people, our employers, other coworkers. Yet here we are, too afraid to post on LinkedIn because we're scared of what our freaking old boss and our old coworkers are gonna think when we literally quit that job. So I'm not saying that you should like shit on them and like bash them and all this stuff. And I'm gonna get into how to talk about things delicately if you don't want to burn bridges with your employer and your coworkers. But the first thing that you need to understand is you need to fully embrace the fact that you're an entrepreneur, right? Because your dream clients are gonna want you to be serious about your business, right? And they're not gonna think that you're very serious if you're out on LinkedIn hiding about what you do and like watering down the truth of like who it is that you are, what you care about, what you stand for, right? And so I think something that's really key is understanding that like you deserve to fully own what you're doing on LinkedIn. And anyone who might have a problem with that, like I honestly can't imagine who would have a problem with it other than, like I said, people who just like are not doing anything with their lives. And some of those might be old coworkers. Like there's probably, I kid you not, there's probably a ton, and I've seen the stink eye at past jobs. There are people who, when I worked with them, it literally triggered them that I was posting on LinkedIn. It triggered them that I used to be an entrepreneur. It triggered them when I quit my job again to become an entrepreneur. It annoyed them that like I was getting like all this attention on LinkedIn, and they were just like, I don't know, like what you're doing on LinkedIn, it's such a waste of time. And it's like, what's a waste of time is you going home and watching Netflix after your job, right? So I think it's really important for us to own what we're doing and not let other people control it, right? Or control us, especially when we've quit our job to do things our way, right? And so something that like I want you to really focus on is really getting laser focused on your ideal client, not the people who are not going to pay you, right? So really thinking about like when you're going to post on LinkedIn, instead of thinking like, oh, like is my old boss gonna think this is weird? I want you to really flip it and be like, would my ideal client want to hear this? Would my ideal client resonate with this? Would this show my ideal client why I'm the one for them? That's the only thing that you should be caring about. And again, it's gonna take a while, especially on LinkedIn. It's such a charged place because of this whole corporate baggage that we all have. But the sooner that you can flip the script and again start disowning that corporate programming, like it's actually crazy to me how deeply we're programmed in corporate. It's like literally, like I've been an entrepreneur for 4 years and I still get caught in that like grip of the corporate and I have to like break out of it. But I want you to always catch yourself and think about like, who are you optimizing your content for? Because it would literally be an actual disaster. I'm telling you, it would literally be a travesty if you did not speak your voice and you didn't say what you truly wanted to say in order to attract your dream clients because you were scared that your old boss was going to judge you, the person who literally is no longer paying you. Like, you have to find a way to not withhold yourself from what you deserve to receive in your business because you're scared of what people who used to be in a past life of yours essentially care about, right? And a lot of the time they're actually not even going to care, right? They're not even going to care that you're saying these things. They're not even going to care what you're talking about. They don't care that you're a coach now. Likely they're probably just like really impressed. Like, that's honestly what a lot of my old coworkers are just like, dang, like I couldn't do what you did. Like, I love all your content. Like, maybe one day like I'll quit my job. So it's either people who are just like, damn, like I want to be like you, or the people who are just like, that's stupid. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, like, I think your life's stupid. So like, great, let's ignore each other, right? So I really, when I think about like what to post on LinkedIn, I don't really like it's really the same content that I would be posting on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, anywhere else, but maybe just like I said, a little bit censored, right? And really, I want to remind you what I talked about in the beginning of this video is the massive opportunity on LinkedIn of showing up as a human with a personality and just like speaking your authentic truth. That is literally what gets the most engagement right now. That's what people want to see. That's what your dream clients need to see from you, right? It's okay to share humor. It's okay to share vulnerable stories. There's just maybe a little bit of a way to talk about it on LinkedIn, maybe like not too much swearing and not too much like revealing clothing. I've also heard they like scan pictures for anything that's like inappropriate. So like, I don't know, maybe you don't want to get flagged like that. And then the last thing is just like nothing that's like, you know, obviously clearly just like bashing your last company, but you're allowed to talk about your past experiences in your job as long as you are making it kind of like vague enough so that literally not one person can kind of self-identify and be like, wow, she's like bitching about me or something like that, right? But let's say, for example, like you, I don't know, like you've quit your job, but now you talk about something that is related to your past experience in your corporate job, right? In the beginning, it's going to feel a little bit weird to talk about things that maybe might make some of your coworkers, your old bosses, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. Again, just kind of like censor it a bit so that it's not, there's always ways to talk about it where you're not talking about maybe like your own personal story. Like you could be talking about it in a general way. Like, you know, here are some general issues that I see like in the corporate space or something like that. Like, you don't have to necessarily tie it to your experience, but I'm telling you, as time goes on and as you distance yourself from that old job and as you disown that corporate programming, you're going to care less and less about what you're actually like, about like censoring yourself for those people. Because also with time, like they might not even be paying attention to a lot of your content, because again, you're going to be reprogramming your community as well, because you're going to be connecting with people who are just like-minded, they're entrepreneurs, and you're naturally just going to kind of push out the people who are irrelevant, right? So yeah, I think the biggest tip really I have is just like, focus on your ideal client, focus on standing out. Like, I'd much rather that you share a riskier kind of like controversial opinion and actually reach your dream clients than you play it safe and you don't end up building your business, right? That was a little dramatic, but like you end up struggling to really like attract your dream clients, right? Because the other piece of the puzzle is social media in general is loud. LinkedIn is getting louder. a lot of people are catching on to this whole authentic thing. Back in 2020, when I was posting content, like literally like very few people were doing anything strange on LinkedIn. I was like the only person like posting like blooper videos from like my YouTube videos. I was the only one posting like really weird selfies of myself. I was the only one talking about like failures of my entrepreneurial projects and all that kind of stuff. But over the years, it's 2024 now, a lot of people have caught on and they realize that the more you can show up as a human, the more you're actually going to grab attention on LinkedIn, because still a lot of people who are scared to be themselves, especially when they still have a boss. And number two, that's just what people want to see more. People want to buy from people. People want to get to know the person behind the profile, right? They don't want to buy from a corporate robot. They want to buy from a human being that also looks like them, sounds like them, feels like them, can identify with them, right? So that's kind of the last piece here, is really thinking about like your ideal client. Like, what are the stories and what are the things that you need to talk about in order for them to be like, oh my gosh, yes, this person understands me, right? That's your number one focus. And just like have fun with it. Like have fun with it. Don't fall into this trap of like, oh, like LinkedIn is so professional. Like, it's only professional if you make it like that and if you surround yourself with people who are just like corporate robots. And honestly, even the corporate robots don't want to be corporate robots. They just don't know how to do LinkedIn the casual way, because it's such a like strange experience, such a strange concept. Like, what do you mean? Like, we're gonna look like humans on LinkedIn, but like we've always been robots. It's like, how do we do that? A lot of people don't want to be like that. They just don't know how, right? And that's actually why I'm in business, because a lot of people want to figure out how to be their authentic self on LinkedIn, right? And so if this is something that you are looking for support with and you want to really like be in a community of people who want to do LinkedIn the rebellious way. They want to do it the casual way. They're entrepreneurs. They're trying to sell their offers on LinkedIn, land dream clients, and you want to be surrounded by people who are posting fun content. They're showing up as their authentic selves. They are, being a little bit edgy in what they're talking about. They're actually sharing their strong opinions, and you want to also create that kind of content. Then I think that the Baddie Money Method membership is the perfect fit for you. It's my latest membership, monthly low ticket membership, $97 a month, where you basically get a whole bunch of trainings on how to create content on LinkedIn, how to network on LinkedIn, how to set up your profile as a baddie. And most importantly, you actually get weekly templates on how to write converting content on LinkedIn, but also while infusing your personality so that you can stand out and really connect with your dream clients, not just corporate robots, right? So if that's something you're interested in, I'm gonna drop the link below for you to join. And again, it's month to month. And this membership is absolutely incredible, because literally like most of my clients who get inside the membership start landing high paying clients within like 2 to 3 weeks, because my framework is so simple. And also I really teach the Baddie method inside the membership, which is how to just like be your baddie self in your content, have a bunch of fun, feel confident, just like shamelessly sell your offers and actually like be a human, sell in a non-gross, non-salesy way, and just like land incredible dream clients in a way that feels really good. So go into the link below if you want to join. It is going to be absolutely incredible, and you get a monthly Q&A with me as well, where you can bring your questions. But the best of all, honestly, is like everyone in there is just a massive baddie. They want to do things differently, and the added benefit is the content templates actually work for multiple platforms. So if you're also on Instagram, you're also on TikTok, you have an email list, you can literally reuse these content prompts and templates for any kind of platform. But of course, they work for LinkedIn as well. So again, if you're interested, grab the link below, and I'd love to have you inside. Otherwise, let me know what you loved about this video, and if this shifted your perspective on how to show up on LinkedIn without looking unprofessional. Let me know if you're going to start posting on LinkedIn right now, or maybe this has shifted your perspective on how you're going to show up. Or maybe you have other videos you want me to make about the casual side of LinkedIn, how to sell on LinkedIn like a baddie. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video so that I know that you liked it. All right, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.